we've got this old manifold off one of the parts tractors round the back. It's been sandblasted. It's come up not too bad. The faces are pretty good. We've got to get a good seal between the manifold and the block. It's just a bit of paint, that. Yeah, it's not cracked. We've got the valves, the little brass breather valves there, so we're just in the process of refurbing it. It's a bit pitted here, but that's nothing for one of these, you know. Might have to just give it a skim just to get a good seal round the edge here where it's a bit pitted and that. Anyway, we can do that on the milling machine. Where the carburettor goes here, and then the throttle control arm goes here, where the bolts goes on to support it here, the bolts snapped out of it there, which is quite a common thing. That's a 3/8 UNC bolt, but where it sits is a bit rough, so we might just machine it down. We can always put a washer in to pack it back up again, but just as we've got a straight surface to work from, it's a bit eaten away. Anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to set it up on the mill. It's quite an awkward thing to clamp down just due to the shape of it. You know, there's no flat bottom, the flat side, but you know, how can you drill it when it's clamped to the sideways? So what I've thought is, where the vaporizer bolts on here, these are 1/2 inch UNC threaded holes. Well, it just so happens that the clamping kit for the Bridgeport is 1/2 inch UNC. So if we get a couple of these, I've just tapped these out just to clean them up, and look at that, it's not often you get that. I think I'll go and buy a lottery ticket. I can screw these in, and then using an angle plate or the big cube that we have, I can then clamp it so it's nice and true, stood up, to drill that hole. Right, now as we've got that, just thinking about it, this we need to pack up just to dodge around this. So if we use one of them, that'll more than clear it. And then we can go round onto the mill and clamp it to the cube. Just take them out from the last job. So we can get it clamped to that cube, so I'll get it bolted up and bring you back in a minute. Right, now as it's bolted on, it's just been, you know, eyeballed, roughly put on, and we're only drilling a shallow hole, you know, it's only about 20mm deep, something like that. But just with it being a casting and this being a machine surface here, because the carb bolts to this, the shaft comes along. If it was out a little bit, you could bend the bracket, so your tin bracket, but just for the sake of argument, I've put a parallel on the machine surface with the clock, and we can just check the run out in it. pretty happy with the way it's set up with the cube. I just had to pack it out a bit there on the vaporizer face, and then packed it out in the step blocks just so as I could get at the nuts through the slot. Just like that. We want this flat. Actually, while I was bumping it around, a piece jumped off, and so it's had a washer packed in it before. That's probably a piece of the old bracket, because if you look at it, you can see the upright piece of it there. Anyway, we've got it clocked in. It's within 1/1000th and a half, which for what it is more than within spec. That's a 1/2,000th clock. Really, there's no need to go to that extreme. It's just a bit of practice, just for a bit of practice, like, you know. Anyway, so now as it's set up, we can face this off, drill it down 20mm, and put the threads back in. And here's another one that's been worked on for an old standard Fordson. That one's in a lot better condition when you look. It's not burnt away as much as that one. So yeah, this is the one we've just been working on. When you look at it, it's quite heavily pitted, but it has stood outside a long time. Anyway, and there's one that's more complete there with the carb on. That's a really good manifold, that. Problem with these is, over the years the screws have been in and out that much that the threads wear, and you end up, if they won't tap out the 5/32 Whitworth thread, but usually what I do, if the threads are gone, I just go up to the next size. I go to 2BA. There's a petrol manifold for gasoline only. That's had new studs in. That was a rough old manifold. Yeah. Both of these have had a bit of treatment. New vaporizer jet, sandblasted out. That one's ready for refitting. New brass in it. Same with this one. Screws all tapped out. You can actually see there, someone had a go at drilling it out and gone completely off centre with it. So I ended up having to tap the off centre hole, plug it with a screw, and then re-tap it again, just to get the positioning right for the lid, for the float chamber. There you go, that gives you a better shot. Yeah, when they whoever drilled that had just gone completely out of line. Luckily, I managed to bring it back. That's plug the bad hole with a screw, and then put the lid back on the 3 good screws, and then drilled and tapped it to the right size. It's just one way of getting round it. Anyway, catch you on the next.